Well, happy holidays and welcome back. My name is Sheldon McLeod. This is Thinking Out Loud. My space here at SaltWire.com, a chance for us to, as I mentioned before, build communities, talk with people with interesting stories. And again, we've just been really blessed, and I'm so fortunate to have this platform and this opportunity. And we'll remind you to find our new YouTube channel that's populated by great stories from amazing storytellers throughout the region. And I had this. I get a lot of emails. I get pitches from publicity companies and agencies. And this was one that, really resonated with me. Andrea England is a performer, singer, songwriter, and a Christmas single called Jolly Melancholy Christmas is her latest release. And, everybody says it's a happy time of year. It's when we're supposed to bring the joy. But sometimes things happen, and maybe it's not the happiest season of all. And I'm not trying to make this a downer, but, let's do a little reality check as well. Andrea England is joining us from her place where she's staying right now. So, Andrea, where is home for you? Where do you live these days?
I live in downtown Toronto, but home for me is always Nova Scotia.
You were in the Guysborough area?
Yeah, I grew up in Guysborough County. I grew up in Sandpoint, a little hamlet with a nice view of the ocean, and went to high school in Guysborough, went to school at St. Yvette's and Dal, and so I grew up here.
And performing, that's the life that you've built for yourself. So tell me a little bit about that journey before we go forward.
It's a long and circuitous one, really. I would say that, performing's a part of it, but writing and songwriting is kind of the whole of it. I wrote poetry as a kid, and then I think my earliest memory was playing at the Christmas variety concert. Not playing, actually being, brought up on stage by some adult when I was 3 or 4, most likely my mother, right. Dressed in some probably country-styled outfit, and sang. So I sang at all the variety concerts growing up. And then I went to university, I traveled, and I was always writing, and I was always playing. And truth be told, I was in a band for a little while I was in university, and went through a bit of a heartbreak. And it was an original band. And so I'd kind of witnessed up close the songwriting process. And it was a really easy transition for me to go from playing music and singing and then writing to putting it all together and writing songs. So, I've done that for many years now, made some records. I make records here and there, but in the meantime, I write with other artists and for other artists as well. So.
When we talk about the craft and the songwriting, and we're in a weird place in our in that industry in a lot of ways. Streaming, everything's online. It's in some ways so easy to find in someone's work, but on the other hand, they're not always well compensated for that. So.
Right. Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah.
Now, when you decide to write a song for the holidays, I know there's a story about where this came from.
Yeah.
And I've spoken with other artists, and sometimes they're writing in the middle of the summer. Sometimes it's they try to muster up that spirit somehow and try and get into that holiday mindset. So when you're writing a song that might not be a traditionally happy Christmas song, tell me a little bit about what was going on.
So I, having released some music on the East Coast early on, and having been really supported by, radio and the press out here. Thank you very much, by the way, for this interview. I've been asked now and again, do you have a Christmas song for, this or that holiday special? And Chuck Woodrow from East Coast Rising was one of those people who, a couple of years ago had asked me, do you have something for the East Coast Rising special? And I didn't. And I do have Christmas songs, but I didn't have any that I'd recorded. And my personal recording, it's very intuitive. Like, I write songs all the time, but only certain ones I record for myself. And it really has to be kind of very personal and very kind of authentic to me to sing it. And so he asked me that. And a family member, very close, a cousin of mine, had unexpectedly passed away just prior to that. And Christmas was upon us, and all I could think of was her family celebrating Christmas and how much, they had planned this Christmas, and now, what they hadn't planned was to not have her there with them. So I thought to myself, what kind of Christmas song would I write? I really should write one. It would definitely be a jolly, melancholy Christmas song. So I wrote that title down in my little notes app on my phone. And I was in mid-project. I write a lot with, as songwriters, we often write in pods. You get your kind of crew. And over the pandemic, I wrote a lot with James, Bryan, and Liz Rodrigues. And Liz Rodrigues is somebody, very good friend of mine, but we've written and built a friendship over years of writing. And I had a session the next day. And we were writing for a project. But as we kind of, actually over Zoom, I was going to say, as we sat down in our respective properties, I said, you know what? I have this title. Would you all be interested in writing a Christmas song? It was between Christmas and New Year's, so it was during the holiday season. And, some of these things I write by myself, some songs that are super personal to me. This one, I felt like I needed to share it because it's a collective kind of experience of grief. So I told them the title, and they loved it, and we went about writing it. And so by, 3 or 4 hours later, we had it. And, so I couldn't have written it with nicer people and more sensitive, talented people. So it feels, and actually, James produced it, played the guitars on it. And Liz, who is an incredible singer, vocalist, my favorite actually, probably, was kind enough to sing the harmonies. So it really is the three of us on this song and on the track.
There are certain keys, there are certain note combinations, there are certain, when you hear a holiday song or a Christmas song, there's a way for it to kind of tug at those heartstrings, but to add a layer that has a bit of sadness to it. Tell me a little bit about, when you put that down on, well, I was going to say on tape, but in the computer or wherever it was that you recorded it, and you first listened back to it. What was that like for you, knowing where this song originated, where it came from?
Yeah, we felt like we nailed it. I felt like that's it. That's the feeling. We didn't want it to be more adorned, I would say, than it is. We chose to have a track and by track I mean like the instrumentation. It all just had to be really simple because it's a simple emotion. It has come straight from the heart. I didn't feel like we needed to do a lot of anything other than guitars, a little bit of rhythm. Couldn't really put any jingle bells. Somebody was saying, well, if you're going to release a Christmas song and you want it commercial, put some sleigh bells in there. And this really wasn't a commercial endeavor. We recorded it, and then actually Liz recorded the initial demo. She's such a great singer. And we let it sit for a little bit. And around August, when I heard her voice on it, I thought, let's pitch this song to other artists as well. Maybe this could resonate. And then we sort of got busy and working on other projects, and we didn't. And August came around, and James said to me, what about that Christmas song? At that point, another very, very close person to me had passed away. So, you asked what I was thinking about when I first heard it. The thing about the song is every time I hear it, unfortunately, I'm now thinking about different people. And I'm here in Halifax this weekend for a double celebration of life. One family member passed during the pandemic. They couldn't celebrate then. So his wife has since passed, my aunt and uncle. So we're celebrating them today. And yesterday, my godmother passed. So, it's a hard time for a lot of people, for my family, for so many people during this, the last 3 years, any year, really, right? Mm-hmm. So the lyric in the song is, I guess it's just that kind of year. And I think the pandemic has made it that kind of year, the last 3 years for a lot of people, but the pandemic will come and go, and death is a part of life. And it's just something that we're always going to have to grapple with. And I think art and music, it helps us, like you were saying earlier.
I've heard folks say that someone is never truly gone until the people who knew and loved them are no longer here. That until the memory is gone, it's almost like there's two deaths. Yes. If you know what I mean?
Yeah. Which I think is why art is so important. And when I say art, I think, there's a lot of music out there. There's a lot of, paintings, whether it's the written word, whether it's visual arts, whatever it is. I think if you capture the truth of someone, that's eternity. That's the way that we preserve the memory, the joy, we teach the future generations. And I think that's what, you know, we're trying to do when we write songs. We're trying to capture some sense of what it is to be human, and in doing so, maybe memorialize somebody close to us. But if we can be universal in that emotion that we're capturing, then hopefully it's not just, you know, my story, it's your story and somebody else's story. So, you know, that's the goal when we're writing a song like this, for sure.
And not to perhaps make this even more sad or morose, but I spoke with someone who lost their child, and they came to a point in their life where they said, I'm not afraid to talk about that loss. I'm not afraid to talk. And I likened it to the opposite of closure, that it was an openness, that I'm open to talking about how much I miss them, how much I love them. And I get the sense that there's some of that here too.
Absolutely. I really do believe that by sharing, by being vulnerable, that's how we heal. I mean, you can't address, I almost made a really bad pun there, but address a wound, but you can't address a wound unless you look at it, right? And I definitely think I've probably saved tons of money in therapy by writing songs. We all joke about it, you know, when we have, and we become very close to some of our co-writers, because we go into that room and we share the thoughts and the feelings in a very vulnerable way, a lot of times, to try to get to the good stuff. And in that process, you make a lot of close friends. And but yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's the thing that interests me. It's probably why I'm a writer or songwriter. I want to figure it out. I know there are some, you know, you were saying earlier, we can, you know, we like to organize and we like to compartmentalize, and we'll make a truth where there isn't one, right? But maybe that is the truth, the thing that we've made up, you know, for ourselves. And I think that's what songs do and are, and they heal.
Have you been able to perform this in front of others yet? Like, as in, you know, in a room full of people and not just perhaps close friends?
Not yet. No. I mean, we just released it on the 11th, and I mean, Sheldon, it's not a party song. So it's one of those songs where it's maybe the fire's lit and it's a contemplative, solitary listen. You know, although I will say, again, another person who's passed, very close member of, it feels like a member of the family, but not, family is not related. Their annual Christmas party is on Sunday, and I suspect that will be maybe the first public performance. It's only been out a few weeks, and the thing about a Christmas song is hopefully, you know, every year it'll come back and people can, you know, experience the feeling. And I feel like there have been a lot of songs that I've heard that are tinged with melancholy. One of my favorites is The River with Joni Mitchell. I think she nailed that sentiment.
This is obviously a time of year where people get together and celebrate, and as you say, perhaps not a celebratory song in the traditional sense, but
yeah.
Does Andrea England still have hope?
Always. Absolutely. I mean, that's why I write. And even in all my songs, every single one of them, I think, you know, they deal with, I want to talk about the truth. You know, whatever the truth is in that moment, whether it's a heartbreak, whether it's the truth of love or the absence of love. But there's always hope, you know. I mean, we're resilient people. And I think that's the point of even writing it. It's the bigger point in releasing it. If you know, I can, as cliche as it sounds, it is the truth. If some person out there is feeling like they're alone, and maybe physically they are alone, maybe they can't talk about whatever it is, you know, bothering them, or their particular flavor of loss, then my hope is that my music brings them hope. That there's somebody listening, that there's somebody who is a witness. Everybody needs a witness to their life. And so I think that's, if Jolly Melancholy Christmas can, tug at someone's heartstrings and make them feel a little bit better or a little bit comforted, then I think we did our job that day.
You can find her website, AndreaEngland.com, and the song is available where songs are streamed. And I'm sure it'll be a sad but Merry Christmas in a lot of ways. So I'll wish you a happy holidays, Andrea.
Thank you. I wish you happy holidays too, Sheldon.
The tree is lit, the scene is set, the stocking's full of the stuff we get. Not everybody made it here. I guess it's just the kind of